Okay. I feel like I start every video the exact same way. So if you haven't checked it out already, there's a video on our YouTube page that I did of some fun ways to start a devotional intro to switch things up a little bit. So I hope you're all doing well. Happy Friday. I'm excited to talk to you about something that I'm really passionate about today. Every time I decide what I'm going to do a devotional on, sometimes I have an idea that pops in my head and sometimes I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to talk about this week. But as I was listening to some of the other devotionals from the other staff members and just thinking about different things, 3 ideas ended up popping into my brain, and something that I have learned recently within the past year or so, and something I was actually talking to the youth girls about last night is what I'm going to share with you now. So I have recently discovered the word wholeheartedly. I knew that word obviously before this past year, but I've found a new appreciation for it just within this past year. And usually when people talk about wholeheartedly or liking that word or applying it to their lives, I think a lot of the time we think of the verse, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind, which is a fantastic verse, but I actually discovered this word and started applying it to my life more through reading 2 Chronicles. When I was reading through the entire Bible starting a few years ago, there were a lot of books in the Old Testament that I had actually never read before, and 1st and 2nd Chronicles were 2 of those books that in my mind were going to be like hecka boring. And I don't know where I had gotten that from. I just thought that they were going to be super boring. I had never read them before. And I started to read them, and I actually absolutely love them. I have learned so much from them. So if you haven't read them, highly recommend reading them. They just go through all the kings and all the mistakes that they made and all of the good things that they did, and I just find it really practical to apply to our lives because it just shows how real these kings were. They were human beings, they made mistakes, they were sinful, and as you're reading through, you'll notice that they're constantly listing all the kings, and they'll say, so-and-so was the king and he did what was evil in the eyes of the Lord. And then the next chapter, so-and-so was evil and he did, or so-and-so was a king and he did what was evil in the eyes of the Lord. And it continues like this forever and ever, and you're like, oh my goodness, is there ever going to be a good king that comes along? Like, this is ridiculous. They all seem to be evil in the eyes of the Lord. And then every now and then a good king comes along who loves the Lord and does what is right. But then in chapter 25 of 2 Chronicles, there's a king named Amaziah who, the way he is described, really struck me and just stopped me in my tracks. And so I'm going to read the first little bit of 2 Chronicles chapter 25, so beginning at verse 1. Amaziah was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 29 years. His mother's name was Jehoiadan, probably butchered that. She was from Jerusalem. This is where it gets interesting, verse 2. He did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, but not wholeheartedly. And that just struck me to my core, and I don't know what it was, but that was just, oh my goodness, like, he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord. Like, you know, you stop there and you're like, great, finally, like a good king. I remember reading this and being like, finally, it doesn't say did what was evil in the eyes of the Lord. We got a good guy here. Can't wait to read about him. But then it doesn't stop there. There's a comma, and it continues and says, but not wholeheartedly. And I just started praying and saying, God, I do not want you to be able to say that of me. I want God to be able to say, Anna did what was right in the eyes of the Lord wholeheartedly. Not Anna did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, but not wholeheartedly. That those 2 small words, but not, they just destroy this entire sentence. It makes it going from something fantastic to something terrible. And I think sometimes we have this perspective of, okay, like, at least he's doing good. Like, at least he's doing things right. At least he isn't an evil king. And I know I can have that perspective sometimes. It's like, I could be doing a lot worse. I could be like that guy over there, and we compare each other. And we're like, okay, I could be a lot worse. I could be doing way more sins. I could have done really, really bad sins because we rank sins. But when it comes to God and serving him, we should want to do it wholeheartedly. We should want to love the Lord our God with all our heart and with all our soul and with all our mind, and not just give 50% or 75%. We should love God so much that we want to serve him wholeheartedly in every aspect of our life. Because I know for myself, there's also areas where I think I could say I serve him wholeheartedly in this area, but maybe not in this other area, because there are different things going on in our lives and we have strengths and weaknesses in different areas. But I want to be able to say that I served him wholeheartedly, and I want to get to heaven and for God to be able to say truthfully, Anna, you did what was right in my eyes wholeheartedly. And so I really want to, I'm a visual learner and I love art, so I really want to make an art piece that says, that kind of mimics this verse, but put my name in it and say, Anna did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, but not wholeheartedly, but then cross out the but not. Just as a reminder that can still be there. Every day we wake up, there's a potential for there to be a but not wholeheartedly, but we also have the decision to cross out the but not so that it says, we did what was right in the eyes of the Lord wholeheartedly, and that can be a true statement. And so that is just something that God has been teaching me a lot in the past year or two, and it is not a one-time decision. It is a daily thing that every time we wake up, we have to decide, am I going to serve him wholeheartedly? And I think it often comes to mind more so when things are difficult, or when there's something that I don't want to have to deal with, or there's a part of my job that isn't my favorite part. Like, it's easy to serve him wholeheartedly in the areas that we enjoy, or the areas that we are good at, and that's our strength. But it's when life gets difficult and conflict happens and challenging things come that we really have to question and say, okay, am I going to serve God wholeheartedly in this? So I hope that was an encouragement to you. I hope that you read 1st and 2nd Chronicles. They're fantastic books. And I just pray that we as a church will serve God wholeheartedly in the coming days, weeks, months, and years. So thanks again for watching, and we'll talk to you later.